food, fire, water, shelter, security, and first aid. Buckets down in our hole. There we have it. Would you have any idea? Unlikely. Welcome back, friends. My name is Jason, and there has been 3 times in U.S. history where it was illegal to own gold. The U.S. government has required its citizens to turn their gold in. Now, I don't know about you, but if this was to happen again, I probably would not comply. I think it's unjust, I think it is unreasonable, I think it's unfair, and I think it is theft. So, I think it's important for us to spread our supplies around a little bit. And I'm not talking about just gold, I'm talking about anything and everything that you can imagine that could become compromised at some point and somebody might want. Having all of your eggs in one basket, so to speak, is probably not that good of an idea. So having caches spread around, I think, is really, really smart. Now, in this cache, it doesn't necessarily have to be something like gold. I mean, it could be just everyday kind of survival items. Food, fire, water, shelter, security, and first aid are the items that come to mind. So we're gonna make a small cache here, and I'm gonna throw in some items that kind of represent those 7 things: food, fire, water, shelter, first aid, and security. So food, something like this. This is some dehydrated milk, some powdered vitamin milk. I'm gonna throw that into this little bag here. And this is a backpack, so once I do pull out my cache, I will have a way to carry all the supplies in that cache. So I'll throw in my food. A source of fire. A Bic lighter is always my preferred method of fire starting. It doesn't have to be this, but this represents making fire. So I'll throw that in there. Water. Here is a stainless steel water bottle with a nesting cup. It's got the steel cup in here as well, so I can boil more water. This has water in it. I did not fill it to the brim. I gave a little bit of space, so if it does freeze, hopefully it doesn't bust, but if we bury it deep enough, it shouldn't freeze anyway. We could also include everything from water purification tablets to water filters, all that kind of stuff. You get the idea. Water. Shelter. Something as simple as a Mylar blanket or other clothing, extra clothing. Here's a nice poofy jacket. I'll throw that in there. So we'll put that Mylar blanket in and we'll shove our poofy jacket in there. A first aid kit, a very simple, not completely comprehensive first aid kit, but it's there and it's enough to get the job done. First aid kit. Protection. I think we know what these are. Throw those in there. And then a multi-tool, a way to cut things, a way to fabricate things, bend wire, cut cordage, all that kind of stuff. We'll cinch it up into our pack. My supplies, I could shove them in this bucket like that. And then I could put the lid on it because it's got a rubber gasket around the lid right there. I could seal this puppy up, bury it, and it's probably going to be fine. But I like to take a couple extra measures. For example, I could take some of this grease right here, premium heavy duty grease right there. Put a little bit of grease just around the rim of my bucket. I could put it on the O-ring as well, but I'm gonna take a little bit of this grease and I'm just gonna put it around the rim, just a tiny bit. It's not gonna take much. Now I could put my bag in this bucket, slap the lid on it, and it's probably going to be good. But let's take one more safety measure just to be sure, because this stuff is extremely valuable to me and I need it. When my life depends on it, I want this stuff to be still viable and have not spoiled or rusted or whatever. So I'm gonna take this Mylar bag, the same kind of bag that I would use for food preservation, and I'm going to put my pack inside of this Mylar bag. I'm gonna be cutting off the top of this bag right here because we have way too much. And then I'm gonna put an oxygen absorber in there. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna suck all the air out of this bag and it's kind of gonna vacuum pack it. So you only need one of these these are 2000 cc oxygen absorbers. So we're gonna throw that in here next to our bag. Now I'm just gonna take my flat iron, the thing that I typically use when I'm doing my do, right? I'm heading out on the town. And I am going to seal up this Mylar bag that already has that oxygen absorber inside of it. Try to keep wrinkles out of it. Not because I'm OCD, but because it might allow air to get in there. And I left a tiny little hole right here. Left a tiny little hole open right there so I can smush most of the air out. Kind of squish this thing down. Get most of the air out. And then I'll seal it up. Now my package here is ready to go in my bucket. It's got an oxygen absorber, and that thing is gonna make it, it's gonna vacuum seal that thing up really, really tight and keep all of my stuff in here nice and preserved for a long, long time. So I'm gonna stick that into my bucket with the greased up lid, or greased up seal. I'm gonna slap this puppy on there. Like so. Now, if I wanted to, if I was really, really particular about what I had in this bucket, I would put it inside of a black garbage bag as well. Obviously, I'm gonna bury this thing with the lid up, right, to keep moisture or water out of it when it does rain. And then I could put the bag with the closed in over top like that. It off like that. Now that is ready to be hidden. Now the only question is where to put it. Anywhere that is discreet, and as long as no one knows that it's there. Don't tell anybody where you put these types of things unless they're a very, very trusted friend or family member. Probably a good idea to tell at least one person where you put it. That way if something happens to you and it's a really, really valuable item, such as gold, they could collect it if something was to happen to you. So I wonder how much gold is buried around the United States because of these gold confiscations. I just wonder about that. Some old timer buried his pot of gold in the backyard and never told a single soul about it, and then kicked the bucket and it's still there. Hard to say, but anyway, find some place that's very, very discreet. Some place where it's not going to be obvious. Underneath a fence post, let's say you're fixing a fence, a wooden fence, and you're digging the hole for the fence post. Dig that hole just a little bit deeper. Put your supplies underneath that fence post. Put your post in place. I think that's a really creative way to do it. Now, we don't have to bury this thing. We could obviously just take it up into the woods somewhere, stash it out into a hollowed tree or whatever, or cover it up with a bunch of logs and sticks and stuff like that. But burying it is going to be a much more discreet, much more secure way of disguising something like this. The exception to that is if it's something that I wanted to be able to get to really, really fast, perhaps. Or if it was a much larger item that was really, really difficult to bury, maybe concealing it somewhere might be a better option for you. I don't know. But in this situation, I would definitely want to bury it. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to bury our bucket right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the sod around it.
I think you need to pull it out.
You do? I definitely wouldn't tell any squealers like this. They can't be trusted. They can't be trusted. We must bury him with the loot. We must bury him with the loot so he can never tell a soul. You turd. Now you can never escape. You'll never leave here. Boom, 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 boom. That's it. You're going in the hole. You're going in the hole. Get out of here, you turd. Get out of here. You get out of here. Now what I want to try to do is remove the sod here in one piece, if at all possible. May not be possible. Might have to pull it out in a couple chunks, but that's okay. But the point of doing this is to ensure that it looks like I was never here and never dug a hole. You know, it takes a long time. What if you dig a hole just, randomly and then fill it back in with dirt? It'll take a long time for that to blend back into its environment. So I'm gonna try to get this out in one fell swoop. There we go. Ta-da! Broke a little piece off there. That's okay. So that's what we're left with, is a perfect square of sod that I can put back. Now, if we were worried about this freezing, we could, something in there that couldn't freeze, we could obviously dig this down way below the frost line. That's gonna vary for every location that you're in. Here, the frost line is just a few inches, so it doesn't need to go very far, even though what I'm bearing doesn't really matter if it freezes. If you were concerned about that being a thing, we would make sure we dig it a little bit deeper. And animals are another concern. So if you're bearing food, like if you live in bear country or raccoon or possum country for that matter, especially bears though, they'll tear up everything. If you're bearing food, I would suggest that you seal it up really, really, really good. Wash everything down, get the scent off it as best you possibly can. And then you can spray the same stuff that you use for hunting purposes, the spray to deaden the scent. Spray that stuff all over it before you bury it, and bury it as deep as possible. I would say you'd want at least a foot of soil on top of what you're burying to conceal its scent. If you're worried about animals getting it, I would say 2 feet would be better. The deeper, the better, obviously. Oh yeah, that's gonna be perfect. Bucket's down in our hole. We're gonna fill in around it and then put our chunk of sod right on top. A little bit of a seam here where you can see we disturbed the soil or the ground a little bit. We're just gonna smack that, smush it down, close up that space. Any loose dirt and stuff around, I'll try to get rid of that or at least spread it out. Could you tell that we buried anything there? I haven't done anything to disguise it other than just put that plug back in there. And you can't tell. You can feel the ground's a little softer right here. Maybe just by walking on a little bit, I could squish that down a little. And obviously with time, it's gonna settle in and start to blend in a bit more. But I can disguise it a little bit. I could take some loose leaf litter, like this. Just give it some of that. Spread it loosely around the area. And all of this soil, I've got to find a home for now. I could distribute this all over the place and spread it around if I was really paranoid about it, or I can just take it far from here and just dump it off. There we have it. Would you have any idea? Unlikely. I mean, you could take a metal detector and you could scan the entire field out here and perhaps maybe stumble across it. If someone's really that determined to find what you got, you know, I guess that's a thing. But you could always throw a bunch of false sign out here as well. Like if you were really worried about something like that and you were extra tinfoil hat wearing, you could throw a bunch of pieces of scrap metal and stuff out here in the yard, and eventually whoever's looking for whatever it is they're looking for, your stash, eventually they're just gonna be like, well, this is silly, it's a field full of crap. So they're probably just gonna give up. Or at least it's gonna slow them down a little bit. Anyway, love to hear what you guys think about this in the comment section. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Leave a comment, lots of comments would be great. Am I a tinfoil hat wearer? Am I crazy? Am I ultra paranoid? Or is this a skill? Is this gonna be a necessity for our future? Thanks so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up. See you next time. Oh, in a few months from now, maybe we'll wait the entire winter and we'll wait till springtime to dig this thing up. We'll pull it out of there and we'll check our contents and make sure the lighter still works, make sure the bang bang stuff still works, make sure you know, everything's not mildewy and nasty and unusable. So in a few months, if I haven't remembered it, make sure you leave me a comment and let me know. Remind me about having this stash out here, and we'll dig it up and we'll make a video out of that. I'm Jason Salyer with Survival Dispatch. As a Survival Dispatch insider, you'll be able to gain the knowledge, the skills, and equipment necessary to protect your family when it really, really matters. They'll provide crucial information on such things as stockpiling food, medical necessities, communication plans. You will receive specific, actionable plans. You can deliver proven techniques to help you get home, shelter in place, or bug out safe.